Da, 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 da. Good morning, everybody. This is Grant from State of the Spark, our Spark sites and Hot Spark, but really just from Grant Sparks. Today, we're going to talk about when I die, which is guaranteed what I'm going to want you to do. Here, let's actually do this right here. 3, 2, 1, going live on Instagram as well. There we go. Good morning, everybody. What I want you to do when I die for me. You see, today I had a friend at the gym step up to me and he seemed a little low. And I asked him, "What's going on, my guy?" And he said, "I had a family member die. Let's talk about it." Now let's back up. This is a friend of mine from the gym, Tim. Shout out to Tim. He shared some personal stuff, and I won't share all of it. But it did make me think about something the samurai say. If you read the Hagakure, which is right back there, I could pull it out and read it to you, but the first section of the Hagakure reminds the warrior to think about their death daily. They used to actually even tie their samurai blade, they used to even tie their samurai blade on the ceiling with the point facing them so that when they fell asleep at night, they would see the blade and they would think about their death daily. So, believe it or not, it sounds a little morbid, but there is a stoic lesson to think about your death daily so that you're immune to it and so that you also know the fragility of life and stay focused on your goals, the bigger goals that you're working on at nearly all costs, which is heavier. And the older I get, the more heavy that statement is, but I'm learning a lot. But Tim shared with me this morning, he seemed heavy, and I said, "Tim, what's going on?" He said, "I had a family member die." I asked him who, and he told me the family member. And it made me think about this samurai quote, and then it made me think about another quote. So I'll tell you this quote, and I'll tell you how I walked through this with Tim a little bit. You see, when someone loses a family member, it starts to wear on them all the apologies, or "I'm so sorry," or, "How can I help?" or "Are you going to be okay?" And it feels very heavy. And I've tried to take another tack when someone in my life either passes or when someone talks about someone who has passed, because I think about the samurai first. Think upon your death daily, as the Hagakure says. But then I think about another quote. And this is actually from Macklemore. And I'm going to butcher these lines a little bit. And he says, "You die twice. Once when they lower you in the grave, and the second time is the last time they mention your name." Think about that. You have two chances at dying. Number one, the one where you lose absolute consciousness and they put you in the grave and you're donezo. I don't know what comes hereafter, but your body's gone, and most likely you're not experiencing anything. And that is the death you experience. But the death the rest of the world experiences two deaths for you. One is when they have to put you in the grave and come to accept that your pattern in the world has ceased, at least for the most part. But that points us to the second chance you have at living. The second chance you have at living is their reputation and the things they say and choose to say about you from that point forward. You see, quite often after someone passes, it seems like a lot of people tend to begin to air their grievances against this now dead person. "Oh, they weren't perfect. They were this, they were that." I don't take that track with people. Once someone has died, I tend to ask the person grieving, what was their name? What was their name? And what did they teach you? And Tim shared with me this family member's name, and he shared with me what this person taught him. And I said it to him out loud twice. I'm just going to make this up, but I want you to hear the inflection of what I gave him. I said, "Hey, Tim, what was so-and-so's name?" And he said, "John Smith." I said, "And what did John Smith teach you?" And he thought about it a second. He said, "He taught me persistence and grit." And I took a pause and I said, "Tim, John Smith in your life taught you grit and persistence." And he looked at me, hearing someone else say it back to him. And I took a pause and I looked at him again and I put my hand on his shoulder and I said, "Tim, John Smith taught you grit and persistence." And it was everything he could do to keep from weeping, because there was just a moment where this John Smith in his life, who I'm not going to tell you who it is, of course they were human. Of course they had their flaws as a human being. Of course that's true. You and I have our flaws, and honestly, those closest to us are most qualified to air those grievances at our funeral site. to air those grievances at our grave. So you have two chances. One, the chance while you're alive to set the tone for, two, what people say about you and how long they talk about you after you're gone. Now, once you're dead, you won't care. But while you're living, thinking upon the two chances you have at being alive, the first in the impact you actually make. But the second is the hope that you make enough of an impression in people that they can say back to you, the impact you wanted to make a world. So when I ask someone grieving this question, what is the impact? What is the positive impact this person made in your life? I want you to take on this new tradition. Sure, hey, I'm sorry. Were you close? I'm sorry you're dealing with that. You know what? They're going to get that from a lot of people, but very few people will help them celebrate the life of the person they lost. How can you do that? By asking this one question. What was their name? Why? Because as soon as you've taken on that person who's passed name, their name is now spreading still. That name is still growing. And that's what I wish for myself and you when we pass. I hope someone shares my name. And then when someone says, what impact did Grant make in your life? Man, that Grant Sparks, dude. He taught me this, whether directly or indirectly. He inspired me to this, whether directly or indirectly. So the name of today's show is The Two Times You Die. One, when you really die, and the last time someone mentions your name, and no one knows when that last time is. And all you can do is leave a legacy. How do you leave a legacy? You don't go superficial. You go for the jugular in conversations. How are you? What's your goal? It's going to be invasive, and most people will be like, that's rude. I get that all the time. I said, I apologize. When was the last time someone asked you about your goals? And then they, oh, hang on. Getting a phone call there. Boom. So they ask your goals and you tell them, or they get bent out of shape because you ask them your goals and they say, that's kind of rude. And you say, oh, I'm sorry. When was the last time someone asked you about your goals? Because I really do care. I want to help you achieve your goals. So last thought here, and I'll let you go. This is a short episode today. Hang on. I'm getting hit up for snacks here. That's the impact someone is making in my life. Boom. So I encourage you this. I encourage you to ask people around you when they say that they lost someone, you need to respond, what was their name? And say the name out loud. Because then this person starts to live on, and then say, what impact did that person make in your life? Hear them out and then say it back to them. Stacy Smith, John Smith made this impact in your life. That's amazing. Stacy Smith and John Smith, or whoever this is, made this impact, and say it to them. And just say, good morning, Freedom Life. I hope you're doing fantastic. Billy Weigel, good morning, my friend. Not trying to interrupt, just saying hello and sending encouragement to you. I encourage you today, Billy. I hope you're crushing it. I hope you're recovering from the hurricanes fine. Let us know if you need any help. So this is what I want you to do for me. Listen, if this is the only episode of Grant Sparks that you ever see, I need you to hear me, and I need you to tell my loved ones who may or may not watch this episode. You have the responsibility. The 3 of you on Instagram, 4 of you on Instagram, 5 of you on Instagram, the 2 of you, 3 of you, 1 of you, 3 of you, over here on all my other channels. You heard it here first. When I die, and people who may or may not have seen this show, this is what I want you to do. I want you to ask each other, who was this? And it's Grant Sparks, right? Grant Nadu, Grant Sparks. And then ask each other, what positive impact did Grant make in your life? Because here's what happens in your second life. In your second life, the one that happens in the myth that is told after you pass. People that remain have an option. Because all of the people that we respect will let us down at some point. Some humanness will come out, whether their farts stink or whether they tell white lies or whether they disappoint us significantly. We saw all aspects of them in all their glory, all their beauty, all their flaws. Every single one of us has that. And when we lift someone up, especially someone close that we love dearly, this can happen. I'm this old and I know how at this point to face the fact that people will let us down. But when they pass, we are now the stewards of their myth. We have a responsibility. I know that Grant said thus and so. I know that Grant let me down in this way or that, but he also did this positive thing for me. And now I am the steward of Grant's myth. I'm the steward of your myth. And when people ask about you, or when I introduce the idea or the history or the person that you were to someone else, I'm only going to put that in the highest light I can, because now the myth lives on. We suffered through this life enough. We made enough mistakes. When we die, we should be allowed that dies with us. When we have paid the price of living a full life in warts and all, beauty and all, passion and all, and we have now won the ticket to get off that karmic wheel, I pray that those living will choose to ignore my flaws. No, but to keep it as that private thing and let the myth pass on. When I die, I don't care if you share, oh, Grant was flawed like this, but here's the impact he made. The myth, I don't care about the secrets. I don't care about the negativity that could have happened in my lifetime. I don't care if you share that, but I want to be absolutely certain you pass on the positive impacts I made or tried to make in your life or in their life. And here's the thing. I hope you tell those around you and your loved ones the same thing. You know, we've gotten into the digital age where we just assume that there's an immutable record, warts and all, and there is a digital record of who we were. Everyone will be able to see how many times I stammered. Everyone will be able to follow my journey and decide or learn what my life was like, and the good decisions I made, and the bad decisions I made, and the successes I had, and the failures I had. In fact, I'm pretty open about all of that if you just ask me. But do not forget this one thing. No matter how connected we are, the people today are starting to increase their Google searches on loneliness more than ever before, and not just at the rate of population growth. It's exceeding the rate of, like, it's not just more people searching, so the numbers are going up. It's more users, more percentage of users are searching, I'm lonely. More percentage of users are saying, I feel purposelessness. They're looking for vision. They're looking for passion. They're looking for leadership. They're looking for aspirational figures. There are very few inspirational people. Look at our politicians. Look at the people we have to choose from in politics. You're choosing the lesser of evils all the time, which means there's very few aspirational people like, oh, I definitely want to be, I'm not just going to vote for this candidate. I want to be like them. There's very few candidates anymore that are like that, but there's very few anybody's like that, not just in politics. There's very few business leaders. I was just majorly disappointed by one of my idols, Matt Mullenweg of WordPress. I have worshiped his open source work in the open source community and still applaud the WordPress community more than ever before. Massively disappointed. But I'll tell you what, once he passes, the only story I will tell about Matthew Mullenweg, I'll say, well, he had his flaws, but he did launch the largest, most progressive open source project ever, and it lasted longer than nearly any other open source project. Now, that matters to me. It might not matter to you, but what's your thing? Who are the idols you worship? Have they become humanized? Most likely, and hopefully so. That would mean you matured. If you're still worshiping idols and you don't see their flaws, you haven't matured. You're still in grade school. And I mean at the age of 20, 25, if you cannot critically think and see that your idols have flaws and call them out, but still parse out what's good and what's bad, the wheat from the chaff, right? The good from the bad. And what do we say? Chew the meat and spit out the bones, right? That's the sign of a mature mind. So you have two options. You have two lives, basically, two chances at living. The first life you live, the second life others live for you by carrying your name forward. And I hope for you the same destiny I hope for me. And that is the positive impact outweighed my humanness. And so I charge you, who's ever watching this live right now, or whoever sees this in the future on one of my many channels, I charge you to, yes, steward my humanness well, share it as you see fit, but be sure people know my mission. Igniting lives of explosive significance, starting with your own. Have a great day.